I guess, a perennial problem. We've been talking on the one hand about the really serious issue with trucks and that accident. Then there are other issues to do with trucks, and we need trucks, right? Society doesn't function without trucks. We've got to find a way to accommodate trucks and have trucks on the roads because they keep the country moving. But this is the long-running perennial issue for Maribyrnong City Council, noise and pollution from trucks in the inner city. Now, for the first time that we know of, Maribyrnong Council has declared a health emergency because of that noise and pollution. Because of the noise and the pollution, Maribyrnong City Council has declared a health emergency. I'm not really sure what effect or impact that has, but either way, those who have been trying to lower the number of trucks on their streets, maybe they see it as a victory, maybe they see it as nothing being done. Martin Wurt is president of the Maribyrnong Truck Action Group. Good afternoon.
Oh, hi, Raf. How are you? Thanks so much for your time today.
Does it matter if the local council says it's a health emergency?
Look, absolutely. It's a really bold statement and a great move by the Maribyrnong Council. It sends a really clear statement to other levels of government, the state government and the federal government, that we need solutions on the ground here.
Does it really send a strong signal? Tell me how and why.
Well, look, we've been raising the flag for decades, really, about what the health impacts are from we have over 8 million truck movements per year on residential streets. And this sends a really clear message that, people are actually listening to what all that data is saying. And more importantly, the really alarming health statistics for residents in the city of Maribyrnong. We've got, some of the highest hospital admission rates for respiratory ailments. We've got really high lung cancer rates, stroke rates way above state averages. And we know that's because we have incredible high levels of pollution. So I feel like this statement, this declaration from the Maribyrnong Council is going to be really hard to ignore.
It's the first time they've done it?
It is the first time. I don't believe any other council around Australia has ever passed a motion like that was declared last night.
Martin, I'm always interested because I speak to a lot of people in this job, people like you, who I guess who are just trying to get their representatives to change the situation. Tell me why you think, and you're more involved in this issue than I am, why do you think the council saying this is going to make a difference?
Well, I think it's going to be really hard for other levels of government, the people who've really got the big levers that can be pulled for solutions, to ignore it. And we know there's really easy solutions. We want things like a low emission zone. Hundreds of cities around the world have these, and that's where they limit what areas old, dirtier trucks can come into. That's what we need here in the city of Maribyrnong. We need something that keeps out these old polluting trucks. And we know those old polluting trucks put out about 60% more pollution than a modern truck. And we need the state government to put this in place. We need a proper plan to get these trucks off our streets. They're also building the Westgate Tunnel project, which is going to get trucks off a lot of our local roads.
Forgive the interruption, Martin. The Westgate Tunnel project trucks, are they allowed to drive when other trucks are not?
When the Westgate Tunnel project opens up, we're getting 24/7 truck bans on many residential streets in the city. But those trucks are going to be over just a couple of 100 metres away in a tunnel, and the vent stacks aren't going to be filtered. So that's one thing we're asking for, is that you might get the trucks off these local roads when that tunnel opens, but please filter those vent stacks. The technology is there. That's what other cities around the world do. They put filtration on those vent stacks, and unfortunately the state government has said no to that time after time. So we are hoping that this bold statement from the Maribyrnong Council that says there's a health emergency here might spur them into action and actually look at those decisions again and make decisions that will be the best for our health outcomes here in the city of Maribyrnong.
Has the state government improved the situation? I know they say they're putting, I think they say, extra stopping points, some speed limits, extra signs for the truck drivers to tell them about the curfew. I think there have been cameras. So there's been a series of things over the last few years. Has that helped?
Look, it certainly helps. Things like particularly the school crossing time curfews. It means that the trucks aren't allowed on residential streets while our kids are travelling to and from school. But overall, we know those curfews do very little to limit the amount of pollution we're breathing in overall. So even though, of course, we welcome things like curfews, we welcome all these plans to get trucks off our streets, but the reality is the pollution just keeps getting worse and worse here, and the curfews don't actually stop that. We need low emission zones and we need filtration on those vent stacks.
And what's your advice, Martin Wurt? I realise your issues are very much around noise and pollution. And I'm trying to tie together your concerns and then this accident with the school bus. And we don't know everything that's happened with the school bus, but it wouldn't be the first community to say, look, we were always worried about big trucks in our area. If people want to get restrictions like speed limits imposed on trucks or just on the traffic going past things like schools or what they consider to be dangerous intersections, what's your advice to people?
My advice is to get active. Don't just accept things. The reason we've got these low speed limits on our streets and restrictions on the trucks going past our schools during school crossing times is because we got active. We stood up. We were persistent. We had petitions. We did protest actions. We wrote zillions of letters and had millions of meetings. And in the end, it paid off. So my advice to those communities would be, please get active. Don't just accept what the government says they're going to do. Get active and make sure you get the best outcomes for your community.
And a quick response, Martin, from this texter. How about we remove all trucks from all roads and no one will get bloody deliveries? These people need to grow up. That's directed at you. How do you respond?
Yeah, we're not saying no trucks. We're saying we want the old trucks off our streets and we're saying we want filtration. We know that other cities around the world have achieved those things. You know, just the Port of Los Angeles, they reduced their diesel emissions from trucks by 90% over a 3-year period. We just need a plan here to make that happen. The truck drivers are happy there. Half the time, the truck drivers are breathing in the worst amounts of emissions in their cabins. So if we can get cleaner trucks, it's better for everybody, including the truck drivers. And I'm sure the truck drivers prefer to have proper truck routes that are away from pedestrian crossings, communities like ours with shops and kindergartens and cyclists, etc. And then we can all live happily together.
Thanks for your time, Martin.
Thank you so much, Raf.